tell you how we can fix it, how we can get Britain working again. This morning, we saw the extraordinary spectacle of a Chancellor, just days before a budget, rushed into a panicked speech. We were told that this was the great moment when Labour would show they had a plan for growth. Instead, what we got was a masterclass in managed decline. A Chancellor claiming she was just going to set the context, but instead of clarity, business leaders are none the wiser, investors are confused, workers are anxious, because the truth is, Labour doesn't have a plan to get Britain working again. The Chancellor's speech was one long waffle bomb. A laundry list of excuses. She blamed absolutely everybody else for her own choices, her own decisions, her own failures. She claims she will focus on the priorities of the British public. Whose priority is it to pay more tax? It is basic economics that if you tax something, you get less of it. Remember those graduates who aren't finding work? Some people are blaming AI. It's not AI's fault. You can draw a direct line between what Rachael Reeves did in the budget last year and the dire prospects that many of those graduates are facing now. She is the one who taxed their jobs and then destroyed them. When Labour made every business in the country pay more to employ someone, those firms had three choices: raise prices, cut jobs, or close. And the impact of all three of those choices is why growth has flatlined. What began as Labour's idea of fairness, to take from the unworthy private sector and give to the worthy unions, has made life harder for everyone, especially those doing the right thing. But we have a plan to fix this. But that plan means Rachael Reeves doing the exact opposite of what she has done so far. To get Britain working again, we need to scrap the windfall tax to get our oil and gas industry working, scrap the carbon tax, take up our cheap power plan to get our manufacturing industry working, scrap the family farms tax, scrap the family business tax to get our farming industry working again. That's what we would do. But most importantly, what we are going to do is get people off welfare and into work. What's happening right now with our welfare system is not just an economic scandal, it's a moral one. When we left office last year, after COVID, 2,000 people a day were being signed onto out-of-work sickness benefits. In just a year under Labour, that number has more than doubled to 5,000 new people each day signing off work. We have tried to help Labour fix this. When they started a bill to make savings on welfare, we offered them our votes in Parliament, but they didn't want them. They'd rather try their backbenchers instead. And what happened? They managed to pass legislation guaranteeing that the sickness benefits bill would rise to £100 billion a year. In fact, Labour backbenchers celebrated. Why? Because they are too scared and too weak to make difficult decisions. They kicked it into the long grass, set up the Timms review, which would try and find some welfare savings. And what did we hear? Last week, we heard the government has now quietly giving up on making any savings at all in this review. Labour believe that they're being compassionate. What is compassionate about writing off millions of people off for life, many of them young people? There will always be a small number of people who do need support. But right now, a generation of young people are being told that instead of challenges to overcome, they have disorders that mean they should never work. This isn't compassion. Even those who have been dealt an incredibly bad hand in life can do incredible things. They can own a home, they can start a family, they can run a business, and many do. But if sickness benefits pay more than the minimum wage, you can understand why someone who's lacking in confidence might not take the risk. Why even bother to get a job? We want to get these people working again. It will help them and it will help us. Not least because for too long we have relied on immigration to do the jobs Brits won't do. It's been damaging social cohesion. Instead of getting people into work, Rachael Reeves is going to put taxes up. And Reform's position is just more of the same. They are also addicted to welfare with their pledge to lift the two-child benefit cap. It is not sustainable and it is not serious. Only the Conservatives are committed to ensuring that we get on top of public spending, and only the Conservatives will fix our broken welfare system. We have already announced our plan to reduce eligibility for lower-level mental health issues, to make sure people coming to this country don't qualify for benefits, to limit motability vehicles to people with serious disabilities. Our plan will save £23 billion by restricting access to benefits to those who need them most. And if Rachael Reeves had any sense, she would copy and paste every one of those ideas. We know she's good at cutting and pasting. But we will keep going. Our plan is just the beginning. Each young person not in employment, in education or training is costing the economy nearly £200,000. There are now 1 million of them under Labour. 1 million young people not in education, not in training, not working. Labour might have given up on them, but we haven't. We will get them working, and we will give them a £5,000 first jobs bonus when they do. This isn't just about economic growth. It's also about fairness, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone in Britain says they want to live in a fair society. What does that actually mean? Labour talk about fairness in the language of Robin Hood. They think those who have taken from those who don't have. They talk about those with the broadest shoulders, never worrying about the limit of what those shoulders can bear. They talk about fairness for working people, but they can't define what a working person is. They think that what they're doing is righteous, but they're wrong. What they are doing is making everyone poorer. For me, fairness isn't about the government enforcing equal outcomes. I believe that rewards should match effort. If you get up and go to work, provide for yourself and your family, you should be better off than someone who doesn't. If you take a risk, leave the security of a job and start a business, if after hard years of graft it finally succeeds, then you should be rewarded for taking that risk. This simple contract, that effort and risk should lead to reward, is what makes society work. It is how progress is made. You might have seen the news last week that thousands of people on benefits are going to have their debts to energy companies paid off by adding an extra £5 to everyone else's energy bills. How unfair is this? Not only have Labour put your energy bill up by £300, they're going to make you pay extra for other people who cannot pay. We have a plan to get Britain working. In fact, we have many plans. At our party conference, I announced our cheap power plan to cut bills by £165 for the average family by backing British energy production. I noticed yesterday that Reform copied that announcement. It's nice to see other parties following our lead, but we're the only party with a plan to do it. The message that this government is sending couldn't be clearer. Don't bother doing the right thing. Don't bother living within your means, because the government won't. Don't bother putting money away to cover your bills. You'll just end up paying for those that don't. The budget is an opportunity for Rachael Reeves to fix this, to make savings and take the pressure off all of us. But this morning, what we saw is that she's given up trying. Instead, they're just going to wrap businesses in more red tape. Labour are so mistrusting of people, of business. They think you need a politician to check what everyone is doing, and that's the only way to stop anything bad from happening. But this is nonsense. The reality is that all their red tape stops good things from happening. Businesses get swamped in paperwork. They close down, or they don't even bother starting in the first place. Shops and restaurants don't get billed. Our high streets are boarded up. Chancellors can't rent out their own homes without breaking the law because they can't keep up with the red tape. Just look at their employment rights bill. The government has plugged its ears to the warnings of businesses across the country. We tried to work with Labour in the national interest. We offered constructive amendments. It is clear, quite clear, that this current bill is not fit for purpose. It needs a fundamental rethink and overhaul. It won't get Britain working. It will kill jobs. The only responsible action left is for Labour to shelve the bill in its entirety and start from scratch. What they should be doing at the budget is withdrawing the Employment Rights Bill altogether before it becomes the Unemployment Act. And I understand Keir Starmer's thinking. He thinks making it impossible to ever fire anyone is good news for workers, that it will protect them. It'll protect them from evil businesses. But actually what Labour don't realise is that these rules just mean people won't get hired in the first place, especially young people, especially disabled people, especially those currently on welfare. And that is why Conservatives will repeal all of the stupid measures in that bill. You cannot guarantee that everything is going to work out. You have to allow people to make mistakes, allow people to change their minds, take a risk if you ever want to get this country working again. I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, that risk aversion is killing us. The price of avoiding all failure is that we are losing all chance of success. This is the culture that Labour is creating, that you're better off spending your money than saving it, you're better off on welfare than in work, and if you do work, you're better off working for the government or the organisation that is taxing the business rather than the business itself. Just look at that definition of a working person they've been getting into knots about. It gets smaller and smaller every day. First, they got rid of farmers, then they got rid of business owners. Now, apparently, a working person is anyone earning less than £46,000. By the time they're finished, the only person left who counts as a working person will be someone on out-of-work benefits. Labour go on and on about fairness, while creating the most unfair of economies. They talk about working people while making life harder and harder for people who actually work. And worst of all, they pretend that what they're doing is all necessary. They pretend that they don't have a choice. The reality is that they have given up trying to change anything. They have given up trying to get the government to live within its means, and they have given up on not raising tax. That's what Rachael Reeves was telling us this morning. And a government that refuses to live within its means while telling everyone else to tighten their belts isn't being fair. That government is being hypocritical. Getting the government to live within its means is not austerity, it is respect. It is respect for taxpayers who already give enough. It is respect for the small business that can't just pass on losses to someone else. And it is respect for the next generation who we want to inherit opportunity, not our liabilities. There is only one way out of this decline. We need to get Britain working again. And you do that by making it make sense to work. The £47 billion of savings we identified aren't random, and this isn't about paperclips in Whitehall, and they aren't cuts to hospitals or schools like Rachael was saying this morning. She clearly hasn't read our plans or looked at our record in office protecting schools, protecting the NHS, in the same way she didn't bother reading the rules on renting out a property. She needs to pay attention. So let me tell her what our £47 billion of savings is yet again. Those savings will come from money that is being paid for people to sit at home. Money that is going to those quangos that are wrapping businesses in red tape. It is money that is going on degrees that leave people with no skills and no opportunities. It is taxpayers' money that is making life worse, not better. With the money we save, we will do two things. Under our golden economic rule, at least half of the savings will always go to reducing the debt burden for our children and grandchildren, because we are the only party that has ever cared about fiscal responsibility. And with the rest of the savings, we are going to get Britain working. We are going to abolish stamp duty so that people who do the right thing, make sacrifices, save up, build something for their family, buy a home. And when they buy a home, painters, decorators, all those people who get out of bed in the morning will have more work. People who run furniture shops and DIY shops will have more customers. Our high streets will be busier. And to help the high street even further, we are going to abolish their business rates. Business rates for pubs, cafes, shops. Instead of putting their bills up, we are going to cut them. We are going to make life easier for all of those people because what they do is work hard. And their work makes people's lives better. Those people deserve our support. And when they have more work, that will need more people to do that work, people with skills. So we are going to double that apprenticeship budget, making sure businesses have the skills they need, rewarding young people who want to get on in life, and giving thousands of people a path off welfare and into work. That will reverse Labour's tax doom loop. When you tax something, you get less of it. That's why we want lower taxes on jobs. We want more jobs. We want lower taxes on businesses. We want more businesses. We need lower taxes on taking a risk, lower taxes on buying a home, lower taxes on having a family. And we will get Britain working by rebuilding the contract between government and citizen. Those of us who are adults have a duty to act like it. Fiscal responsibility is not cruelty. It is care in its truest form, the kind that thinks beyond an election cycle, the kind that refuses to harm the next generation for the convenience of this one. Fairness is about effort matching reward. It's about people who work hard doing better than those that don't. Fairness is about equal opportunity, not equal outcomes. It is about taking responsibility and being trusted to get on with your life. And fairness is about living within our means so our children don't pay for our debts. That is the fairness that we are going to rebuild our country on. And we have a plan to do it. Cut government waste, cut welfare, get people into work, abolish stamp duty, cut business rates, slash red tape, create jobs, double apprenticeships, deliver cheaper power, because when work pays, when business grows, and when government lives within its means, Britain works. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. And now I'm going to take questions from the media. Can we start with Carl Dinnan from ITV?
Thank you, Kemi. One of the things the Chancellor said this morning was that productivity in this country is worse than expected. Leaving aside whether or not that should really have come as much of a surprise, as the leader of the party that has been in power for 14 out of the last 15 years, how much responsibility does the Conservative Party bear for the poor productivity in our economy?
Well, it was very interesting that she mentioned productivity without looking at all of the things that Labour has done to reduce productivity. We saw the biggest drop in productivity after a global pandemic, of course. We paid lots of people to stay at home. It cost us a lot of money. We're still recovering from that. And I won't shy away from what we did during the pandemic. I'm pleased that it was Conservatives, not Labour, because they were asking us to spend even more, keep people out of work longer. That would have made the productivity situation worse. But we do know that productivity in the public sector is what has been dragging things down. We need to tackle the lack of productivity in the public sector. That's why we've talked about making savings within the civil service, about £8 billion of savings. A lot of this red tape, which I'm talking about, will deal with the productivity, scrapping the red tape will deal with the productivity problem. So I have a plan for the future. The current government doesn't have a plan. My predecessors can answer for what they did on productivity. I'm talking about what I'm going to do to get this country working again. Thank you, Carl. Catherine from GB News. Catherine Foster.
Thank you, Catherine Forster, GB News. The Chancellor flung a lot of blame around this morning, a lot of it at the Tories for 14 years. She said that they put political expediency above the national interest. Does she have a point? Because the economy really since the financial crisis has not done well, has it? And also on the BBC, the news that in an internal memo accused the BBC of completely misleading the public over the Trump footage on January the 6th. What action do you think should be taken about that? What would you do if you were in government at the moment? Thank you.
I'm afraid I haven't seen the memo about the BBC, so I can't really answer that question. But it is utterly ridiculous to see Rachael Reeves stand there blaming everybody except herself. Unemployment has risen every single month since Labour came into office, but she wants to blame me for that? That's crazy. She should look at her jobs tax. Look at what she did in the budget. We knew that they were making a mess, and we saw them cheering about how they were going to have a £40 billion tax rate. They thought that they were doing a good thing because no one in that cabinet has ever run a proper business. If we're going to get our country working again, we need people who understand the economy, people who've worked in the private sector, people who've run a business. Rachael Reeves is going to come out playing bingo with all of the lines that she has been practicing for the last few years. That is because she doesn't have a plan. If she had a plan, she'd be talking about what she was going to do other than tax rises. All she is doing is blaming everyone else. This is a chancellor who's back against the wall. She doesn't know what she's doing. We need to get Britain working again. She should copy and paste our plan. That's the best that she can do right now. So she should take our ideas and run with them at the budget at the end of this month. Beth Rigby from Sky News.
Thank you. Kemi, you were quick to criticise Rachael Reeves over her expected tax rises and broken promises. But what about the Conservative record? Because in 2021, Boris Johnson broke his own manifesto promises and announced a £12 billion hike in national insurance to pay for social care. It didn't come to pass, but he was prepared to do that. And then the Truss mini-budget broke a load more manifesto commitments and caused havoc. Currently, 2/3 of the public still do not trust the Conservatives on the economy. What's your response to that? Does it surprise you, frustrate you, confound you?
Beth, I'm glad that Rachael has sent you her briefing notes, so I know exactly what it is that she wants people to think. But we had a global pandemic. We had a war in Europe that jacked up energy prices. What's her excuse? What's her excuse? They haven't had anything like that happen, and yet we are seeing all of the metrics go the wrong way. Of course, we didn't want to put up taxes, but where did people think the money was coming from, where we were paying people to stay at home? Where did it come from? Every action has a consequence. We went into that election not knowing that there was going to be a pandemic, but we dealt with it as best as we can. I'm not here to say everything was perfect, but there is no other party that is talking about fiscal responsibility except us. No other party is going to deliver a stronger economy and stronger borders. We have come up with a plan. Let's get the welfare bill down. Let's get people into work. Every person off welfare going into work is a double whammy. We're not paying for them to be on benefits, and they're going to be contributing taxes. That is the one thing that can be done, and Labour has no plan for it. Anything else that they're talking about is just making excuses. Helen Catt from the BBC.
Rachael Reeves is obviously preparing the pitch to raise taxes, and yesterday we had Nigel Farage suggesting that significant tax cuts aren't realistic. Why do you think yours are? And if I may, how would you define a working person?
So I know that mine are realistic because we have explained where the money's coming from. That is something Nigel Farage couldn't do. We have a golden economic rule. This is how we're going to make sure we can do two things at the same time. Pay down that deficit, which is increasing every year and creating a problem for the next generation to fix, but also carry out tax cuts that stimulate activity. If we take the burden off business, then they won't close down. Fewer people go on benefits. They pay more to the exchequer. That's what we're talking about. But if we don't do things that stimulate economic activity, then we are in a decline spiral. And that is what Labour is basically saying, that they don't know how to make anything better. And they're just going to be shifting the money around, taxing more and more until there's absolutely nothing left to tax. There is only one party that is thinking about how to solve this problem, and that is the Conservative Party. Nigel Farage has junked the contract he made with the country last year. If he had been elected, he would not be delivering any of the things which he promised. That is why we tell people that we don't just make announcements without plans. We have plans, we have set them out, we have explained where they will come from. They aren't easy, but there is only one party that is brave enough and competent enough to take the tough decisions, and that is the Conservative Party. Daisy Eastlake from The Times.
Thank you. Given the Chancellor's speech this morning, isn't the choice for voters now between tax rises from Labour or austerity from the Conservatives?
No, not at all. There is an alternative. Let's get the welfare bill down. We are living beyond our means. Where is the money that we're spending coming from? It's coming from borrowing, tax rises. We are currently borrowing to pay welfare. This is not a normal state of affairs. We need to start competing with all of those other countries that are getting their act together. We need to start growing. There is only one choice, and that is the Conservatives. The only thing that we can do now is get Britain working again. Anything else that is not about getting people into work, by reviving our oil and gas industry, by getting manufacturing in, reducing energy prices, anything else is pie in the sky. That's the only thing that's going to work now. That's the plan that we've set out. Claire Ellicott from Daily Mail.
Hello. Reform have said that they may not guarantee the triple lock in the future. Your Chancellor has said that it's unsustainable for the long term. Would you stick with this policy no matter what the state of the future finances?
I have been very clear. The triple lock is Conservative policy. There was a reason that we brought it in. Pensioners on fixed incomes have things harder than others. But where to start is in getting people into work. That creates growth. Doing things with the triple lock is not a growth measure. It doesn't change the fact that we're not growing. If we start growing our economy, a lot of problems go away. That is why that's the first thing to do. Nigel Farage and others can have speculative conversations. They are commenting. He has never had to enact any policy. You look at what's happening with the reform councils. They made promises they couldn't deliver. We're not going to do that. What we promise, we will make sure that we can deliver. David Shepherd from the FT, please.
Thank you. Following the speech this morning, I mean, some people will be particularly concerned about seeing their taxes go up. Are you pledging at this point that any tax rises Rachael Reeves makes in the coming budget would be reversed by a Conservative government?
Well, I've said that we want to see lower taxes. I've set out the taxes which we are going to reverse. But the truth is, Labour are making a bigger and bigger mess every single minute that they are in government. So I don't know how big the mess we're going to have to clean up will be. We just know that it's going to be one almighty mess. But what people can tell from everything I'm saying is that we are making sure that we will be fiscally responsible. Of course, we want tax cuts, but if we do that, we've got to find spending savings in order to match them. That is what we will do. And we will make sure that we're looking after the people who are most vulnerable. Our golden economic rule sets that out. Pay down the deficit and invest in tax cuts to stimulate economic activity. Right now, Rachael Reeves has a choice. She doesn't need to put up taxes. What she should be doing in that budget is policies like stamp duty to stimulate home purchases, abolishing business rates, making it easier. If she had any sense, that's what she would do. And finally, I have Anna Mikhailova from Times Radio.
Just picking up on that point, if Rachael Reeves does raise the basic rate of income tax, would you reverse it?
Well, it's the same answer that I've just given. She shouldn't be doing this, but every time she makes one of those changes, she sort of resets where the economy is. We need to make sure that we get our economy growing again. I have said that I want to see lower taxes. We talked about the taxes that we said we'll reverse, the taxes on family businesses, taxes on family farms, VAT on private schools, scrapping the windfall tax, scrapping the carbon tax. That's a lot of taxes that we're already getting rid of. But every day she is shrinking the size of the productive economy. Every day she is growing the public sector, meaning that a smaller and smaller number of people are carrying more. The rider is getting bigger than the horse. That is what we're talking about. That is what we need to stop. Thank you very much, Anna. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.